Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. Well, this one I got is about another politician straight out of the state of Arizona. Some of our politicians, man, are doing stuff outside of legislating on our behalf, creating laws, keeping the president and our U.S. government in check as a congressperson or a U.S. senator. Some of them are sticking their hands in the cookie jar and they are getting caught doing things that they should not be doing. When you take a position where you are representing a city or a state, let alone the country, you have to be on your P's and Q's at all times. Well, this particular story is about a recently former U.S. senator out of Arizona, a woman named Kyrsten Sinema, who was representing the state of Arizona as a United States. She started out as a Democrat and then went independent. And she only served one term, but in that one term, she decided to have a liaison or an affair with her bodyguard. How often does that happen? But it gets even more egregious than that. She not only publicly let people know about their relationship, and of course the bodyguard was married. She was not, and the senator, Kyrsten Sinema, even went to a Taylor Swift concert with the bodyguard, the bodyguard's wife, and the bodyguard's children. She admitted in court that she had a liaison, a relationship with this man, and they had relations in multiple states. And by the way, Kyrsten Sinema actually is a lawyer. She went to Arizona State. What happened, the ex-wife of the bodyguard found out about the relationship, decided to separate and divorce her husband, but she also went after the U.S. Senator, Kyrsten Sinema, under this homewrecker law based out of North Carolina. It's a state statute called the homewrecker law. And Kyrsten Sinema's defense is that she did not have any kind of relations with the bodyguard in the state of North Carolina. But she did admit that she had relations with him in other states and cities throughout the U.S. What a bizarre story. This woman should be representing her state full time, and she is having an affair with her bodyguard who was married. So let's get into this story. Also, a little background on Kyrsten Sinema. She's 49 years old. She went to Brigham Young University, has a BA. She went to Arizona State University. She got a master's in social work. She got an MBA, and she has a JD, a law degree. So very smart person. She was a Democrat from 2004 through 2022 and became an independent in 2022 to the present. She was Arizona's U.S. Senator from 2019 to just recently in 2025. So she was there for 6 years, 2019 to 2025. She was a U.S. Senator for the state of Arizona. So let's get into the story. Former Arizona United States Senator Kyrsten Sinema says in court filings that she had a romantic relationship with her bodyguard. Former U.S. Senator's admission comes after Heather Amo sued her. Heather Amo is the wife, or was the wife, of the bodyguard. Heather Amo, sued the senator under the North Carolina's homewrecker law. So here it goes. Former U.S. Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema admitted in court filings to having a romantic and intimate relationship with a married man who was a member of her security detail during her final years in office. But she argues that his estranged wife should not be able to sue her over the affair or liaison. The admission to the multi-state affair came in response to a lawsuit filed by Heather Amell, who accused the former Arizona senator in federal court of breaking up her marriage under North Carolina's so-called home wrecker law. In court documents filed on March 12th, U.S. Senator Sinema, Kyrsten Sinema, asked a federal judge to dismiss the case, saying in sworn statements that she has no connection to North Carolina, where the bodyguard Matthew Joseph Amell resided with his wife and children. She noted that she was physically intimate with Matthew in 4 states, as well as Washington, D.C., but not once in North Carolina. Furthermore, between early 2023 and November 1st of 2024, U.S. Senator Ms. Sinema says 100% of her phone calls and email communications with Matthew occurred when he was outside of North Carolina and largely related to his work as part of her Senate security detail, which involved frequent travel. The U.S. Senator states that she was unaware that Matthew lived in North Carolina with his family until December of 2023, more than a year after he first began working security for her. Sinema also maintained she had no knowledge of Matthew's day-to-day whereabouts unless it was related to travel as part of her security detail. As part of the filing, Sinema detailed a half a dozen encounters in which she said she was physically intimate with the bodyguard, Matthew. The first documented encounter was in Sonoma, California, in late May 2024, roughly 2 months after she announced her decision not to seek re-election and several months before he separated from his wife. So there was already things going on in his marriage, in the bodyguard's marriage, but this didn't help the case with this U.S. senator. The U.S. senator stated that they engaged in additional encounters in New York, Washington, D.C., Aspen, Colorado, and Phoenix, Arizona. According to Heather's lawsuit, this is the wife of the bodyguard, she had a good and loving marriage with her husband before Sinema's deliberate interference. She accused the U.S. senator, I know Senator and Sinema, remember her name is Kyrsten Sinema, and she was a U.S. senator, so just follow me. According to Heather's lawsuit, she had a good and loving marriage with her husband before Sinema's deliberate interference. She accused the U.S. senator, Ms. Sinema, of pursuing Matthew despite knowing he was married. Heather maintained she discovered messages exchanged between her husband and Sinema that exceeded the bounds of a normal working relationship and were of romantic and lascivious natures, including a photo of the then senator wrapped in a towel. In the lawsuit, Heather, remember that's the bodyguard's wife, also alleged that Sinema, who was the U.S. senator, paid for psychedelic treatment for Matthew, the bodyguard, a U.S. Army veteran who has struggled with post-traumatic stress, substance abuse, and traumatic brain injuries tied to his military deployments. Sinema, the U.S. senator, denies ever sending a photo of her wrapped in a towel and states that she had no recollection of sending any message to Matthew, the bodyguard, suggesting he bring MDMA drugs on a work trip so that she could guide him through a psychedelic experience. Now, follow it. This is a crazy story. It sounds like two people in high school or college with this drug stuff, this extramarital affair. When does she have time to go to U.S. Senate meetings and to legislate not only on the behalf of her state of Arizona, but she's also legislating in meetings and conferences representing the United States of America. Says campaign finance documents show that Matthew received nearly $9,000 in October from Sinema's old campaign committee. Other unusual campaign expenditures included hotels in Saudi Arabia, wine and gifts from Taylor Swift's official gift store, a legal complaint filed in February by a campaign watchdog group accuses Sinema of improperly spending political campaign funds on personal expenses. It cites her relationship with Matthew, noting that her campaign committee continued to pay him for services after she left office in January of 2025. Federal Election Commission's, the FEC, documents show her committee, which has since been terminated, paid Matthew more than $100,000 between January and October of 2025. In Sinema's motion to dismiss, which is, remember, that's the U.S. Senator, she states that she joined the Amel family, listen to this, including their 3 children, at a Taylor Swift concert in Miami back in October. So she went to a Taylor Swift concert with Matthew Amel's wife, with Matthew, the bodyguard, and with his 3 children, while she's having an affair behind the wife's back. The Amels stayed in a different hotel rooms during the trip, according to legal documents. Days later, according to Heather's lawsuit, Matthew accompanied the U.S. Senator, Miss Sinema, on a work trip to Saudi Arabia. So after he does the Taylor Swift concert with the senator and his wife and children, and they're having a secret affair, he leaves a few days later to go on a trip with the U.S. Senator to Saudi Arabia. And then you could have just imagined what went on there. When he returned, when he returned from Saudi Arabia, the couple separated and he moved out of their North Carolina home. There's no way that this U.S. senator who's having this relationship with this bodyguard does not have a clue what state that her bodyguard lives in. They're having pillow talk, intimate relations about children, about his wife, about her ex-husband. There's no way that she could plead ignorance, even as a lawyer in the court of law. She would be lying under oath to say that she didn't know where this man lived. North Carolina is one of only of the few U.S. states where spouses can sue a third party, often the paramour, for alienation of affection resulting from an affair. But Sinema says Heather's lawsuit against her should be dropped because the affair at the center of the case unfolded exclusively outside of North Carolina. The case has brought renewed attention to Sinema, the Democrat turned independent, who served 1 term in the U.S. Senate after flipping her seat in 2018 in a politically competitive state. She emerged as a key bipartisan deal maker, but infuriated her Democratic colleagues by stymieing some of the top legislative priorities when their party held the White House during Joe Biden's presidency. Since leaving the Senate, Sinema has continued to raise eyebrows with her work on issues such as cryptocurrency and artificial intelligence as a senior advisor at the law and lobbying firm Hogan Lovells. Finally, she has openly advocated for psychedelic medicine and been outspoken about her experience undergoing ibogaine treatment to prevent dementia. What a crazy story.